The Star Sport podcast is brought to you by Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, funding dreams for over 50 years.
Close your eyes and pull like a dog.
And a new Irish record for Phil Healy, 22.99.
Christy Cooney hands over the Sam Maguire Cup to Ger McCarthy, Cork All-Ireland champions for the 7th time ever.
Hello and welcome to the Star Sport podcast. My name is Jack McCarran of the Southern Star. Before we kick things off, I'd just like to give a gentle reminder to our listeners and viewers to please rate, review and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify and YouTube. The Star Sport podcast is brought to you in association with our friends at Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, where your bank really does matter. Choose the credit union, choose local, choose community. On this week's podcast, we're going to hear from Ciarán O'Sullivan, captain of the Beara divisional side that won the 1997 county championship. Ciarán has been chatting to Ger McCarthy about that incredible year, which saw Beara lift the Andy Scannell Cup following a replay victory over West Cork rivals Castlehaven. The Beara 97 winning team will be honoured during half-time of this Sunday's Premier Senior Football Championship final between Nemo Rangers and the Bars at Páirc Uí Chaoimh. Later on the show, we'll be chatting to Bandon AFC coach Áine O'Donovan. Áine is a coach with Bandon AFC's senior men's team, and she also coaches the younger generation in their School of Excellence. She's been speaking to Dylan Mangan about the significance of the Ireland women's team qualifying for next year's World Cup in Australia and New Zealand and what it could mean for women's soccer in West Cork and beyond. But first, we're looking back to Beara's famous 1997 county final win. So here's Ciarán O'Sullivan chatting to Ger McCarthy.
Now, on the Southern Star podcast, it is a real pleasure to have a member of the 1997 Senior County Championship winning team from Beara, the Beara division, a team that overcame the mighty Castlehaven after a replay to win that title. It was a fantastic time for Beara football. It was also a fantastic time for their under-21s. They were winning counties around the same time. And a lovely arc means that next Sunday, at half-time, in the Premier Senior Football Championship County Final at Páirc Uí Chaoimh between Nemo Rangers and St. Finbarrs, the Beara team of 1997 will be honoured at halftime in front of what's certain to be a huge crowd. Joining me on the Southern Star podcast this week is one of Beara's most important members of that title-winning team, and also the top scorer from the 1997 championship, which is something I didn't realise until I did my research. But former Inter-County Cork star, All-Ireland winner, Beara and Orhan star as well. Ciarán O'Sullivan, thank you very much for joining us here on the Southern Star podcast. How are you?
I'm good, Joe. I'm good. Delighted to be here.
Yeah, you don't remember being the top scorer in that particular championship, do you? I could see from your reaction.
No, absolutely not, to be honest with you. I'm poor to remember that anyway. But yeah, I suppose, look, so I was told anyway.
Very good. Well, it's confirmed. Before we look back, let's just have a quick look ahead to what's happening next Sunday in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, because it's a lovely moment for you, a lovely moment for that particular panel, an opportunity to be honoured in front of a huge crowd, but obviously the chance to get together and reminisce about the good old times. How much are you looking forward to that? Because I would imagine there's some great stories to be told.
There is, Joe. I mean, I'm very much looking forward to it, as I'm sure everybody else is. You know, there's a lot of buzz around the place, actually. You know, there's a WhatsApp group out there at the moment, so it's hot and heavy. Everyone's looking forward. Barry Murphy and a few more have organised the bus and all that heading up from Castlehaven on Sunday morning. So yeah, it's all systems go. So I can't wait, really.
You're well used to travelling the road, as are all the members of that panel. That bus is going to get there on time, yeah?
Well, we hope it will anyway, Joe, to be honest with you. Yeah, there might be one or two stops, but I'm sure it's leaving fierce early in the morning anyway. Someone told me today, Seamus Smith, he told me today, he said, the day of the match, he said, the bus left, I'm not quite sure what time, but he said it's leaving earlier, he said, next Sunday, or we're not playing at all.
Well, that's good organisation as ever from the Beara division. Good organisation. Ciarán, you were blessed to have such a glittering career at intercounty level. You won All Ireland. You were part of a fantastic Cork setup. I know how important Orhan is to you, your club team, but I also know how important Beara is to you and Beara football. In 1997, there's a couple of things I wanted to ask you. First of all, winning a county is not an easy thing to do, and it was straight knockout back then. For the people, younger watchers and listeners of this podcast may not realize, now we have a round robin, there's a couple of matches. But back in 1997, it was knockout from day one right the way through, and you did not have an easy path to that final. Firstly, I didn't realize either until the research that you played in the Kelleher Shield as a division, which was a big thing back then because divisions don't normally get together that often. How important was it to have a regular set of games heading into that championship?
Ger, it was hugely important because otherwise we wouldn't have played together as a team. You'd have all individual teams playing within the division, obviously. But it was great, and we travelled all over the county, and we also played challenge matches outside of the county just to make sure that we would have games together as a team, and that's exactly what stood to us for years.
Can I ask you, because when you're part of a divisional team, there's rivalries. It's the same with Carbery, it's the same with Duhallow, it's the same with it's Musgreen nowadays. There's rivalries with the clubs always coming across each other. There's always an intense rivalry, and there would have been an intense rivalry. How did you manage? What did you do to merge and keep the divisional team together as a club? Because I remember on your path to that particular final, because Clonakilty would have won it the year before, you were division, but you seemed and acted like a club team. Is that fair?
Yeah, I suppose that would be fair. I think we were very lucky, at that time who we had involved, and Donald O'Sullivan, Donald Butcher, as he'd been known, and Johnny Hoolan and Barry Murphy. And they were a great bunch involved, so they made it easier for everyone else. I suppose we were very lucky, as you said, we played in the Kelleher Shield, so we had played numerous games together before we got to championship. But like any divisional team, I think momentum, we got over the first game against Clyde by a point, just about, and we got on the next day. Then we played against the Páirc. We won at the end, well up half time. Project Crowley saved 2 penalties the second half. They came right back into it. We won. So the momentum was with us. And I think the longer a division is involved, that you're playing together, the easier it is, to be honest with you. And that helped in our favour. And I think the management made it very easy for us.
Yeah, it sounds like they did, because as you said, you did not have it easy. That in the Páirc game, there was a lot of penalties. The first day out against Clyde, by your own admission, you didn't play particularly well, but you got over it. And then you met a Duhallow team in the semi-finals. And back then, for people who don't know, in 1997 and pre-1997, Duhallow would have been the division to beat in that particular, at the senior grade. The likes of Danny Cullity, Cork Star playing, and a few others. I'm not asking you to remember how that game went blow for blow, but coming into the Duhallow game, Duhallow certainly would have been favoured, but you won 15 points to 7. That must have given you a real boost, beating a team of that quality going in against the Haven.
Oh, it absolutely did. We all know, like you said, Duhallow have always been a fantastic division. They've always put great emphasis on the division. I suppose John Fenton Daly really used to work very well with them. And we mustn't remember or forget that time. Anyway, Ollie O'Sullivan, Ollie Roux actually played with us that day, but he had been sent off in the Páirc game, so we thought we were going to be down Ollie that day against Duhallow. And so there was fierce pressure put on Paul Hanley from my own club, who hadn't played in the previous 2 games. So he came back for that game in Macroom, and he had a stormer. And Ollie ended up playing, thanks to the late Ger Batt and Mick Reynolds and these people. Thanks to Mick. Mick is still with us. Who worked and made sure that Ollie was playing on the night. And Paul Hanley came back, as I said, and had a blinder. And if I'm not mistaken, he ended up marking Danny Cullity. And we finished very strong that night. And it was all systems go then for the final.
Before we talk about the final and who you were playing and where you played it and the amount of people you played in front of, can you remember, did the fact that Bantry, O'Donovan Rossa, Castlehaven and Clonakilty in West Cork had won the county title coming into 1997, you would have had a good look at all these teams, not alone in the Kelleher Shield, but you would have seen them in championship. Did you feel like you were up to that mark and that your time was coming and that you were capable of winning it?
Well, I honestly think we did, because we were always coming closer and closer as we were going along. Like, we had been beaten the previous year by UCC, I think below in Bantry, and that was a very close margin. And like even previous to 97 and 96, I'll have to mention a club man of my own here, DJ O'Shea, God rest him, he's gone from us now. He died suddenly during COVID. DJ was also involved with the Beara team. So it had been building over time, right up to 97. And we always knew we had a great bunch of players, but you still have to go out and you have to play and you have to compete and you have to win. And we felt ourselves that we were good enough, but we needed to get a small bit of momentum going as a division. And that's why I think it was so important that we won them couple of games. And like you said, having seen other West Cork teams going up and winning the county, we were saying, why can't it be us? Just why can't it be us? And I suppose we put our shoulders to the wheel basically, and we drove on.
I remember that time being a bit younger than you, not much younger than you, but a little bit younger than you back in that day, at that time when Clon won it in 96 and when the other West Cork teams won it. But I also remember your under-21 team, Ciarán. I remember Beara being the best under-21 team in the county. And they won a county in 97. They'd won as well the year before, I think. But how important was it that you had the likes of Ger O'Sullivan? That's just one name now of a very, very talented Beara under-21 team maturing around 97, because it added to what you already had.
Oh, 100%. I mean, we had a big mix of I suppose of ages on the team, on the senior team of 97. But as you said, it built up from an under 21 stroke senior team. But you have to have that. You know, to be honest with you, we were very lucky. There was a lot of work on Beara. Like all the talk is about the 97 senior team. The under 21s won the same year. A week later, against Bishopstown, you know, in a county under 21 again. So at the time, there was a load of football being played, a load of football. Like the Tuesday night before the county final, we all got together and we trained in Castlehaven Beara. 42 people were tugged out that night training.
Wow.
Yeah, between under 21 and the senior team. So I'll tell you, like it was a build up for years, right? Which was finally coming to an end. You were guaranteed nothing in the final, obviously. But I mean, that's how many trained on that Tuesday night, and people had travelled down from Cork, you know, to do that, because they felt we were so close. And there was a mix, as you said yourself, the under 21s, and even if we went back further, we were very lucky going back. I'm going back as far as 1988 now, where we won a minor county. It was the first minor county the Beara had won, and we had a man called John Nolan, originally from Carrigaline. He's manager of the Castlehaven Fishermen's Co-op, but John was in charge of us that time. Very shrewd man, and there was a lot of the group of 98 were still involved here, or of 88 rather, were still involved in 97. So you could go back that far, nearly say that, you know, that group of players, not everybody obviously, but a lot of them stuck together and were still involved in 97 again.
That's brilliant. I mean, going back that far, that just shows you the connection that was within that particular group. And when you add in the likes of Ger O'Sullivan and all those young fellas that were used to winning, I think you need that winning mentality, that kind of young fellas coming onto the panel. Sometimes it gives the established players that boost that they wouldn't have had in a while when they see no fear. Was that the case with those young fellas, that they just didn't have any fear? They just went out and got on with it?
They had no fear, but, you know, isn't that what you want? I mean, I'm sure lads are apprehensive. You know, you're going to have some bit of nervousness go out into any match. But I mean, you can't fear anyone. You respect every player, and you respect, you know, but you have to go out and without any fear and go out and play. And these lads, as you said, they were great footballers, Anne Regan, Brendan Ger, and plenty more. And they had actually won. Here we go again. Now we're going back. And in 88 as well, they had won an under 12 county, right? We're
written in the stars, so here.
I tell you now, right? I'm really going back here now, Ger.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, it was a great year, 88 for them two separate groups, and you still had a mix. So you really had young and old in the senior team then in 97.
Brilliant. And it's just as well you did, because you talked about nervousness and you talked about whatever about the exuberance of youth. 16,000 people were in Páirc Uí Chaoimh to watch yourselves in Castlehaven play out an absolute thriller. I'm not going to ask you blow for blow about that particular drawn game, but I am going to ask you, do you remember where you were on the pitch? 10 points apiece, time is up, we're into injury time, the Haven get a free. Who steps forward to take that free, and what happens?
I couldn't believe it, because I said we're so close, and like, I happened to be involved with Cork at the time, and Larry was in charge, and when I saw him putting the ball down, I said, oh my God, this can't be happening, because like, Larry doesn't miss, to be honest with you. and I couldn't believe it when I saw it going right to the post. I said, "Oh my God, we've been let off here today." I felt we didn't deserve to lose it, but that happens, and I would have put my house in it that he'd put it over the bar, to be honest with you, because he was an unbelievable player, as we all know, and his free taking was exemplary. But for whatever reason, somebody blew it wide. And thankfully for us, it allowed us back a second day.
And can I ask you about the second day when you went on to win the replay in front of 12,000 people, which back then was a huge number for a replay, winning it 110 to 1-7 in the replay. The fact that it was 2 weeks, Ciarán, was that actually a good thing for you? Or can you remember back then, like, I mean, sometimes as a player, the replays coming the following week, you just get on with training during the week and it comes around very quickly. 2 weeks can be a bit of, it can stretch a little bit, and, there's a lot of distractions when you're in a county final, as you well know, but it obviously suited you to have that extra time.
I think it did, but Jerry, you might correct me on this now, but I think Castlehaven intermediates were possibly playing in the middle, because intermediates, Castlehaven intermediates are also playing at the same time. There was so much football going on at that time, so I think they were playing in between, but I stand to be corrected on that. But yeah, it is, because it was a kind of an anticlimax to a certain degree. I remember when we came off the field in the drawing game, went into the dressing room. Of course, we were delighted that we were still involved, but it was an anticlimax at the same time, because it was a county final, and all of a sudden, my God, we have to come back again. But I suppose we were good and glad, at least to be able to come back again. But yeah, I suppose the fortnight, it was just, we still regrouped very well. Like I said, Donald and Barry and Johnny Hull and everyone worked very well together and made sure that we weren't certainly getting carried away anyway, that we hadn't won it yet and we had to go back out and do it all over again.
Can you remember the feeling at the final whistle? I know there's pictures of you with your arms in the air and the cup being presented to Andy Scannell, that famous Andy Scannell, but can you remember, was it what you felt when you finally had done it?
Oh my God, Joe, it was I'll never forget it. It was unbelievable, because, like, first of all, the conditions were appalling. The pitch was so heavy. It was a real tough game, and they had chances right near the end. I mean, they had a free kick, or was it a sideline ball? I can't remember. That was put into the square, and it bobbled around, and it came out, and I couldn't believe it. I said, out it comes, and eventually the whistle went. It was, I don't know. I mean, it was every positive feeling you could have all coming together. It just was unbelievable, because, it had been 30 years. I mean, Beara had won it in 67, 30 years later. And I never forget when that final whistle went, and the crowd just drove onto the field. It was unbelievable. The support we had over the 2 days was phenomenal. Even the first night when we went back after drawing, you'd say, the atmosphere would be great. There was still a crowd that met us in Castletown Bear and people along the road. But what we met the night of the victorious night going home was just, I'll never forget it for as long as I live. It was unbelievable. Yeah, a great night and great celebrations.
Lovely memories to have, and fully deserved. And before we leave the subject, talk to me about the holiday the following year, the trip to Am I correct in saying that, no, in fairness to Beara, in fairness to the footballers and everybody involved, you raised enough funds to go on a holiday early in 1998. I think it was Malaga you went to. Do you remember, I'm not going to ask what happened on the holidays, because I know what goes on tour stays on tour, but how special was that? I mean, that was a lovely thing to look forward to and something nice to do for the group.
It was great. It was a great holiday, to be honest with you. I don't know how it started off or how someone even thought of going on a holiday, but I suppose, look, having had the success we had, someone obviously said, maybe Donald Butcher himself said, look, lads, why don't we try and get together and go away? And someone said, yeah, we'll go away. And to Malaga we went, and we had a great time, let me show you, sure. Yeah, and thankfully we all came home out of it. And that was the main thing. But it was great. We raised funds, like we sold pictures, and everyone had so much to do. And we funded it. And Johnny Barry O'Sullivan, he had a pub in Glengarve, Johnny Barry's. He sponsored Orne actually in 1992 when we won the county, and he sponsored Beara again in 1997. And he was unbelievable. And we all had these T-shirts going out. Yeah, we had Beara on tour in 97. We all had the T-shirts going out. It was unbelievable, the fun. But I think after the first night, I think we had to ditch the T-shirts.
I was just going to say,
we'd have put on our own tops after the first night, but it was great. Yeah, we had great memories, and thankfully we all came home with it.
Very good. Many's the night, just for posterity. I've forgotten in Johnny Barry's fantastic pub down in Glengarriff, so I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Look, next Sunday at Páirc Uí Chaoimh, as we said at the outset, at halftime in the Bon Secours Premier Senior Football County Final between the Bars and Nemo Rangers, the Beara county winning team from 1997, including Ciarán O'Sullivan, who's on here in the Southern Star podcast with us, will be introduced at halftime. It's a lovely accolade. It's a lovely memories. It was great to go down memory lane tonight and just talk about them. Ciarán, before we finish up, you're a very busy man. You're heavily involved in Orhan, heavily involved in Beara, but there's some interesting things happening in Orhan GA right now. Yeah, there is. We're very lucky at the moment. I'm only one of a few in a committee, right, who are working very hard. But we have our junior Bs are out against Ballygarvan a week tonight in Dunmanway, and then the following day on the Saturday our junior A's are out in the semi-final of the county against Kilmurray in Bantry at 4 o'clock. So there's a lot on, and even out in Beara, the Castlehaven under 17s are in a county final tomorrow, and then next Saturday as well the Beara under 17s are in a county final. So there's in Beara in general there's still a lot of football going on. So hopefully, in the next 2 weeks, there'll be more success coming to Beara and then to the Orhan club. We wish everybody involved in Orhan and in Beara, and it's just fantastic for me personally. I know we've had a lot of chats down the last couple of weeks. Yeah. How great is it to see Beara football on the front foot again, Ciarán? It's super, to be honest. Look, I was involved with Paul Kelly and Mickey O'Sullivan, Mickey Craig, and Dennis Harrington, as we call him, Dennis Mick from Glengarriff. We were involved there last year with the Beara Minors, and obviously had success, which was sweet. It was brilliant against Ballincollig, right at the end by a point. And this year again, with the same squad really, but a few extra younger lads, with the under 19s, and had success against Castlehaven, below on Bantry. So it's great. It's great times. You're guaranteed nothing, but we're very, very lucky at the moment. There's a nice bunch of lads there, and I suppose the hardest thing from now on is going to try and keep everyone together. Keep everyone around, keep everyone interested. I really do think that they will. There's a very strong bunch in the clubs locally, so hopefully we'll all stay together, and it's all good for Beara, because it's great for the division, it's great for the whole place, it's great for the supporters, it's great for the area. We're all clubmen. Yes, we all have our individual clubs, but at the end of the day, we are a Beara division, and I'm hugely proud of it, and there's a lot of people going up here next Sunday week now in the final at halftime who are very, very proud Beara people, and I hope that will continue. Well said, and we hope that the panel from 1997 enjoys the accolade at halftime. I hope the bus gets there on time, and I certainly hope, I hope that bus gets home, Ciarán. But for now, Ciarán O'Sullivan, Orhan, former Cork and All-Ireland winning footballer, and Orhan and Beara, and member of the Beara 1987 county winning team, thank you very much for joining us on the Southern Star podcast. Thanks, sure. You're very welcome.
The Star Sport podcast is brought to you by Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, funding dreams for over 50 years.
The national outpouring of joy when Amber Barrett put the goal in the Scotland net at Hampden Park to send Ireland to next summer's Women's World Cup in Australia and New Zealand felt like a significant moment for Irish sport for a number of reasons. That significance was not lost on Bandon AFC coach Áine O'Donovan, who is something of a trailblazer in her own right when it comes to soccer in this country. Áine has been speaking to Dylan Mangan about that historic moment and what it might mean for the future of women's soccer in West Cork and beyond.
So I guess there's only one place to start with Áine O'Donovan today, and that's with the Irish women's national team. A massive achievement for them to qualify for the Women's World Cup for the first time ever. To start, Áine, I guess, how important is the qualification and how big an achievement is it?
It's absolutely massive for the girls themselves, but I think the knock-on effect it's going to have here in Ireland and for grassroots clubs, women's national league clubs, and obviously the women's national team themselves, it's absolutely a massive achievement. Something that isn't just like it's been coming for a while. They've been working really hard, and even there's girls from the National League up every month at home base, training camps and things like that. So like Beara and the staff have been working really hard behind the scenes. The players have obviously been putting in the hard work. And when they won against Scotland, I think everyone in the country just got a big buzz off it. Myself, I was actually on a UEFA Youth B women's license course. So there was 12 of us all huddled around the TV, jumping for joy when the final whistle went that evening. But like, it was a proud moment, like just to be, you know, a small part of women's football in Ireland, I suppose. And like their slogan, "Out Believe," I think just really captures that team. Like they keep breaking down the barriers and just keep fighting.
And they have a great opportunity next summer as well in Australia with the draw that they got with Australia, Canada, Nigeria. It seems like a decent draw for them. Amber Barrett came out during the week and said that she wants to qualify for the second round. Do you think that's something that they can achieve?
Absolutely. And I think with this group of players and the staff and say the country like as a whole, and even the Irish stay out in Australia, they're just going to get so much backing. And they're going to prove to all the bigger nations and stuff how our little country will fight to the bitter. Like, you know, we're a country that will always fight and have massive pride in that. And I think what's absolutely fantastic is the opening game of the World Cup against the hosts. Like your first major tournament, and what an opening to get. The buzz like they'll get now off that like would just be, you know, it'd be massive. And then obviously when you're in Australia next year, like it's just going to be absolutely massive for the girls. Like opening game of the tournament against the host nation. Like it's stuff really that dreams are made of. For if I was a player in that squad, I'd be absolutely loving it now, to be honest.
And with it being in Australia as well, and the amount of Irish people living over there, it could almost be like a 50-50 split in the crowd, you could imagine, with the amount of people.
Exactly. And you hope that the Irish that are over there will get behind the girls, because they deserve absolutely every bit of it. Like only in 2017, they had their their speak out about their like lack of resources and stuff. And 5 or 6 years later, they're after qualifying for a World Cup. Like it's a massive turnaround, and like the hard work done behind the scenes is just incredible.
Yeah, and that hard work and the achievement that they have gone on to achieve, it really does kind of trickle down to the grassroots as well. You're involved with Bandon Soccer Club, and you coach with the seniors men's team, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But the School of Excellence there have a lot of young girls in the younger teams. And have you seen kind of a rise in people coming, or has it just given a boost to everyone there?
I think it's just given a massive boost. We have an under 14 girls team as well, and it's just like a buzz around the place. You know, kids coming in their Irish jerseys to School of Excellence every Saturday morning. Even like I work in a school here in Bandon, and the buzz the Wednesday after, all the kids out in the yard playing soccer, and I was dreaming of qualifying for the World Cup. Do you know, those little things like would never have been seen before. And I think it's just absolutely brilliant. Both boys and girls just now looking up to the likes of Katie McCabe, Denise O'Sullivan. Do you know, all those girls, they're now like they're role models, but not just for girls, like for boys as well. And here in Bandon, like we're obviously we've Connor Howerhin, we've Kate O'Donovan, Niamh Cotter, and Orla DC all have come through Bandon AFC and are now playing with Cork City Women's. And you know, between those girls and the girls qualifying for the World Cup, women's football in Bandon is just going to go from strength to strength. Between our School of Excellence, our underage schoolgirls teams, and then we have a women's football fitness. It's called Let's Have a Kick Off it now as well, and it's just enjoyment, and there's just a buzz around women's football at the minute, which is absolutely fantastic for the sport.
Yeah, and Bandon does have a real a stamp of approval, I guess, in the Munster Senior League as well this year. Top of the league at the moment, some great victories recently away against Everton and against second place Douglas Hall. Are you happy with how the senior team are performing so far?
Yeah, I'm absolutely delighted. It's my first year working in senior men's football. I would have coached a lot of the lads when they were underage, But Sean Holland asked me during the summer to get involved, and I didn't think about it twice, to be honest. Myself I'm really proud to be involved. Coaching in your home club, the highest that you can be involved in Munster Senior League. As you said, top of the table at the minute. It's just like, for me as a coach, it's absolutely amazing. Working with the lads twice and 3 times a week, and then when you see the stuff you put in on training, working in games, and obviously we had a top of the table clash there a few weeks ago against Douglas, and coming out on top of that, it was just an amazing feeling. And just the lads just give 100% week in, week out, and they're a credit to the club. But I absolutely love working with them. They put in they get the rewards for what they put in, and hopefully in a couple of months' time we'll be, after being promoted as first division winners, up to the Munster Senior League Premier Division, and are wanting to stay there. We don't want to come back straight back down. So there's a massive drive and determination. So hopefully, come May we'll be up in the Premier League.
And how have you found the coaching experience overall? I know you kind of are devoting your life to it at the moment. It's something that you're really invested in. And do you think that's something that you want to continue going forward?
If I could coach 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, I would. Something that I've always had a passion in, I suppose, was soccer. And then when I got diagnosed with my juvenile arthritis, my playing career, I would have been I kept playing, but I just knew it wasn't going to be for much longer. So Niall Regan came to me and spoke to me. He was my coach at the time in Bandon, and just said, look, Áine, there's different options. And I think Bandon is fantastic at that. We obviously have Niall, who's head of FAI coach education. We've Richie Holland, who's just after winning the first division with Cork City. And there's so many other coaches who just give their undivided attention and just for their love of the game to Bandon AFC. But no, myself, I absolutely love it. Coaching the men's team, it's different because obviously I've worked in a lot of female environments with Cork City, Cork School Girls League, but they're an absolutely brilliant bunch of lads, and so far anyway we're getting the rewards of their hard work and stuff. So hopefully long may it continue, and yeah.
What are your kind of ambitions going forward? Are you a future Beara replacement?
I'd absolutely love to. So I'm currently on my UEFA Youth B license. So I'm 2 or 3 away from my pro license. So I'd absolutely love to get my A license first and just take it say day by day. If you asked me this time last year, would I be coaching our Munster Senior League in Bandon in my local club, I would have probably laughed in your face. So things open up without going looking for them. So yeah, no, just take it day by day kind of a thing. Keep working hard, obviously training and doing the coaching courses, and then just see what happens kind of thing. See where the road takes me.
Is that mindset something you mentioned briefly there, your diagnosis with juvenile arthritis? Is that something that diagnosis kind of taught you to embrace, that kind of a mindset?
Yeah, I think so. I remember going up to Crumlin Children's Hospital for over 9 years up and down. And when I was diagnosed first, I genuinely felt my world was going to go turn down. It was because sport was my life, and kind of it was being taken away from me. I was playing camogie, football, soccer, everything you could imagine. I was out every night of the week. But from seeing, say, other kids in Crumlin, and even through ICAN, so the Irish Children's Arthritis Network, I've learned that there's always someone worse than me. And I know that may sound very bleak, but you drive on, and when I was up in Crumlin, there was a 6-month-old baby going for the same treatment that I was going for. And I lived, in my head, I'll never forget that. I lived 13 years of my life, say, pain-free, and was able to do all these things to the best of my ability, go to school and do all this. But that child has just started their life, and they're being diagnosed with this, and they've never experienced any of that kind of thing. So things like that, I think, has made me realize, always everything happens for a reason. And I was never I'll put my hand up, I was never a great soccer player. Absolutely loved it and went to every training and every match and stuff, but was never going to be, in an Irish team or even a Cork team or whatever it may be. So coaching has opened so many doors for me, and gave me so many opportunities. It's been absolutely incredible. Winning an FAI Cup a few years ago with Cork City. Again, if you told me 5 or 6 years ago that would be happening, I would have probably laughed in your face. The same in 2020 when we went to Tala and lost to Peamount that year. Last year with the under-17 Cork City girls, working with Sarah Healy. It's just been absolutely incredible. And there's so many more experiences that I've got as a coach, say, that I wouldn't have got as a player. And it's just, you take it day by day, and you will have good days as a player and you have bad days as a player. And same thing in coaching. And with my diagnosis of juvenile arthritis, you do have good days where you can get up and walk a 5K, but then the following day or 2 days later, you'll have a really bad day and won't be able to get out of bed. So you take the good days with the bad days, and I think that sort of has come into my coaching philosophy as well. You will have a great result, say 3-0 against Everton last weekend and beating Douglas Hall 2 weeks ago in the top of the table clash, but there will be a bad day as well. And, things like that, definitely with the juvenile arthritis, it has taught me a lot. To have a kind of a growth mindset rather than a fixed mindset, I suppose, is the best way of putting it.
Yeah, I guess long may the good days last for Ireland, for Bandon, and for yourself. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today. I think we'll leave it there. And thanks again.
No hassle. Thanks a million for having me.
The Star Sport podcast is brought to you by Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, funding dreams for over 50 years.
Now, before we wrap up this week's Star Sport podcast, I just want to briefly point to what's coming up in this week's Southern Star Sports section. So, obviously, we have all the fallout from Bantry's loss to Kanturk in the Premier Intermediate Football Final at Páirc Uí Chaoimh last Sunday. Áine O'Sullivan's writing about it. We have reports, reaction, and analysis from that game, and loads of photos as well. So if you were at the game, there's a chance you may feature in Thursday's Southern Star. So if you're from Bantry, you'll want to pick up this as well. Even if they did lose, it was still a historic occasion for the club. We also have Tom Lyons writing about the very tragic news that came out of Clonakilty last weekend. Tom's paying tribute to the late, great Pádraig Griffin, who sadly passed away. Tom's remembering his playing days with Clonakilty when Pádraig won 2 county titles in 1996 and 2009. So it's a poignant piece from Tom and well worth picking up if you want to remember Pádraig's brilliant playing days. We also have reports from Inniscarra's Premier Intermediate Hurling County Final win and Randall Oak's win over Ballinhassig in the Cork Junior B Hurling Championship. We have a 2-page spread on Ballinascarty's Carberry Junior A Hurling Championship final win over Newcestown, as well as a report from the Mid-Cork Junior Final, which saw Ballinora beating Grenna. There's also news of a big milestone for Bandon RFC. They're celebrating their 140th year this Saturday with a meal and a game against Belfast's Cook RFC. So if you're a Bandon rugby fan or a West Cork rugby fan in general, you'll want to pick up this week's paper for that. And if you are a rugby fan and you're in the region on Saturday, why not head down to Old Chapel for that game and help Bandon celebrate this remarkable milestone. We have all your old favourites as well, including West Cork soccer, road bowling, and motorsport. So be sure to pick up this week's Southern Star Sports section for all of that. And if you can't make it to a shop on Thursday, you can always subscribe online. Just go to www.southernstar.ie/e-paper and subscribe to the Southern Star for less than €2 per week. Thanks for listening to the Star Sport podcast, and thanks as well to Ger McCarthy and our producer, Dylan Mangan. If you enjoy these shows, please make sure to rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Slán Tamil.